EA, it's in the game. So goes the motto of video game publisher Electronic Arts. But what does the company mean when they say it? Subpar games that are basically broken? A hostile relationship between company and consumer? Or maybe they mean greed unlike the game world has ever known. Whatever it is, gamers around the world are sick of it. EA was on the receiving end of Consumerist's Worst Company in America award for 2 years in a row. Not the worst game publisher, the worst company. That's really impressive, and it's a reputation that's well earned. So sit back and brace yourself as we run through the shady truth of EA games. Our house, our rules, your problem. In 2011, EA launched Origin, a proprietary competitor for the Steam software distribution platform. Going up against the well-established service was an uphill battle, but EA didn't make it any easier for itself with its entitlement clause. The clause stated that customers could lose access to video games they'd purchased if they failed to log into Origin over the course of 2 years. EA reserved the right to purge players' accounts, permanently robbing people of their legitimate purchases. People were immediately mad about the principle of the thing, unwilling to give up the time-honored ability to buy a game and keep it forever. The service also faced accusations of banning users arbitrarily, monitoring people's computers, and even banning entire countries. While the company worked to fix these issues after user complaints, it's all part of a pattern of consumer-unfriendly behavior, and we're barely getting started.
Let's all get through in one piece, eh? If you get into trouble, we'll be right behind you, lad.
Gimme the loot. After whetting fans' appetites with the slight but promising Star Wars Battlefront in 2015, EA released a follow-up, Battlefront II, 2 years later. The sequel built upon what the original created, adding gameplay improvements and a single-player campaign. But the publisher also added in microtransactions. Most outrageously, the in-game purchases involved items and characters that gave players who invested extra money advantages over others, making the game essentially pay to win. The backlash hit hard, and the more EA tried to explain its reasoning, the more angry people became. After unprecedented outrage, EA pulled microtransactions from the game entirely, for a little while at least. Cruelties of crunch. It's not just what EA tries to get over on gamers that irks people so much. The way the company treats its employees is allegedly immeasurably worse. Game development is a pretty grueling process. A lot needs to happen to get a game from concept to completion. And hitting those goals means putting in overtime, including the stressful crunch period that kicks in as deadlines near. EA is notorious for taking crunch culture too far. One of the first big public strikes against the company came as the result of a 2004-era blog called EA Spouse, in which an anonymous writer chronicled the injustices they observed while their partner worked at EA, including a lack of overtime pay or comp time. In many instances, refusing to compensate workers for their time and labor isn't just immoral, it's often illegal.
If it weren't for you, I'd be free.
Free, is it? You'll be free when you're dead.
The blog received a ton of mainstream attention, and the EA employee who was the subject of the blog eventually filed suit against the company and won a settlement in 2006, securing $14.9 million in back pay for everyone who had earned it. A grim monopoly. For all the joy that video games bring, the business of making them can be a cruel one. It's not uncommon for developers to come and go, either going bust or being absorbed into larger companies. But when the EA giant consumes smaller developers, it tends to chew them up real bad.
Side top stove.
EA has absorbed many smaller developers over the years, including Theme Park's Bullfrog Productions, Star Wars Battlefront's Pandemic Studios, and Maxis of sim game fame. Today, these developers have one big thing in common: their studios have all been shut down.
You're fired!
You can also pour one out for Mythic Entertainment, Westwood Studios, Black Box Games, Visceral, BioWare Montreal, and many more. EA has the means to buy whole studios, but seems to lack the motivation to keep those studios around or their employees, well, employed.
Got a list of enemies now. They all give me joy when I picture cutting them, crushing them.
A shot at Sega. When EA decided not to support the Sega Dreamcast in 1999, Sega decided to create a video game sports brand from scratch. The result, Sega Sports, brought the 2K series of sports games to the world, including NFL 2K, a direct Madden competitor. Sega's football series was a critical hit and went multi-platform in 2002 and duked it out with Madden for the next few years. By 2004, Sega significantly undercut EA with the glowingly reviewed NFL 2K5, which was released for the can't-miss price point of $19.99, a whole $30 less than the new Madden. EA didn't want to compete like that, so instead of upping its game, the company flipped the table over. NFL 2K5 wound up being the last NFL game ever released by Sega, as EA negotiated a deal with the league to become the sole executive publisher of NFL games. Just like that, NFL 2K was dead. In a strange coincidence, once EA scored a monopoly on the NFL brand, the Madden games started being hit with more lukewarm reviews. It was almost as though the company had stopped trying to create a quality product. Good for them, bad for gamers. Pay the toll. Most shoppers would say buying and selling used games is legitimate, rightful, and reasonable. EA disagrees. In an effort to get money from used game sales, EA launched a program called Online Pass in 2010, which forced people to input a unique code to access online play. One code was included in the retail copy of the game, but if the game was resold, the next buyer would have to pay EA for a new online pass. Otherwise, they'd be shut out of EA's servers. The implication was inescapable. If you bought an EA game used, you didn't deserve to use it. Gamers were understandably miffed by the online pass system, and after, EA picked up its second Worst Company in America award from The Consumerist. It got the message and removed online pass from all of its games. But hey, greed is good, right?
I create nothing. I own. We make the rules, pal.
Urban Decay. The launch of 2013's hotly anticipated SimCity was a failure on every single level. When it was released, players discovered the $60 game not only under-delivered on EA's promises, it was also literally unplayable. Unlike previous entries in the series, SimCity 2013 required players to always be online. If they weren't connected to the internet or if EA's servers were down, the game could not be played. Having an always-online requirement for a game that had always been about single-player infuriated paying gamers, especially since the game didn't need to be online for any technical reason. According to a representative from Maxis, the EA-owned developer of the game could easily accommodate offline play, but they, quote, rejected that idea because it didn't fit with their vision. And what was that vision? Gamers everywhere determined that the publisher put the requirement in to deter people from pirating the game. Who cares if legitimate customers were locked out of their purchase in the process? By the time the servers were working, the damage had already been done. When the game did work, it was buggy and simplistic, not delivering on many of the publisher's promises. A subpar product from a company hostile to its customers, SimCity was a massive disappointment, a capsule example of all things that are wrong, and sometimes just plain evil about EA. Thanks for watching. Click the SVG icon to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Plus, check out all this cool stuff we know you'll love too.